When we bring the light to what is dark, when we bring the unconscious into our conscious awareness, it is truly the most liberating thing we can do. And the more I accept myself, the more I can accept others. The more that I love all parts of myself and come into relationship, I don't have a yes, no, good, bad orientation around my relationships. My name is Deb Blum, and this is The Whole Soul Way. It's my signature program that I've been teaching for the past 4 years, and I decided to offer the foundation lessons, exercises, and tools for free on YouTube and all of the major podcast channels, because I truly believe that the world needs more of us, healed, whole, authentic, and awake. And you know what? I don't want to be a barrier to anyone getting the help that they need. And in fact, I really want to be part of the change. Each lesson builds on the last. So if this is your first time here, make sure that you start at the beginning. This is your invitation. Show up, do the work, and join the movement of souls who are committed to creating a better world, one inner transformation at a time. Let's dive in. We're going to talk about judgments today. Now, it's so funny because in the world, we see people always saying, don't be judgmental. Stop being judgmental. And I always think to myself, what if you'd stopped being judgmental, you'd miss so many opportunities for growth. Now, I just want to be really clear that I have been an incredibly judgmental person. I remember my mom always tried to instill kindness in us, and she had words like we weren't allowed to say fat, ugly, stupid, and she always felt she was colorblind, and that generation was just different, and she wanted us to just not be judgmental. And somehow it's like Murphy's Law. Everything she wanted in us, my oldest brother and I, we ended up being the most judgmental people ever. And she used to say, how did I create such judgmental people? What's really interesting is that my mom, as she got older, got judgmental. And it's because she had a shadow. She had shadows, right? So it's the way it works. And so the more we try to suppress our judgmentalness, the more it is going to come out in sideways ways, sneaky ways, or that we are going to ultimately be judgmental, because it's the judgment that's in your heart. So is it true that, okay, so can you stop being as judgmental verbally? Sure. Can you cut off from it? Maybe. I think generally speaking, we're still judgmental inside. We're not just projecting our judgments outside as much. I'm just saying. I think that we have to use our judgments. I see judgments as an amazingly ripe opportunity for us to be able to see what is inside of us that we are cutting off from, or disowned, or somehow have put into the shadows. And again, this could be something that happened to us so young, we have no awareness of doing this. It could be something that we made a decision, actually, I'm not going to be that way, don't be that way, and we push that aside. So it could be unconscious, it could have been conscious. It doesn't make a difference. If it's something that you have in a place that you have cut off from that says either consciously or unconsciously, I don't want to see that. That's something in the shadows. That is a shadow. So the beauty of the way that we have been built is that we project on to others. Projection is, in psychological terms, it is actually this process by which, because I cannot see what is inside of me as clearly, I project out onto other people or situations, but let's just use onto other people. I project what it is I don't want to see in me onto another person. So other people are mirrors for us. Brene Brown, you've heard me say this before, she says that we judge other people on things that they do just a little bit worse than us. And you've heard people say things like you point one finger out and 3 are pointing back at you, or you spot it, you got it. Those are all things that are just true. They're truisms. And we can either just believe the content of our judgment, or we can use it to turn inward. Now, I am not going to deny that the person in front of you may very well be whatever it is that you're saying. Like, they may very well be acting in a selfish, annoying, jealous, rude, disrespectful way, right? All those things. And we can't possibly know, if we're seeing clearly, until we have first cleaned up our side of the street. So we have to first go inward and do the exploration around judgments. Once we've done it, then we can see more clearly. I just don't know for sure if ever 100% clear. I am of the mind that if I still am seeing it in another person, that chances are there's still some of it in me. Here's the thing. I would use this as a barometer. If you see clearly in another person their behavior, but it's not triggering you, that's discernment. That's when you're able to say, yeah, I see the behavior and I don't want to be involved in relationships that are this way. And so I'm going to set a boundary, or I'm going to walk away, or I'm going to choose to let that friendship come to an end. That's discernment, and that's coming from a clear mind and clear eyes and not the bias that we have of our unconscious mind. Always great to check in with other people on that, to see if other people are seeing what you see. We risk the collective consciousness, right? Because we sometimes have the collective consciousness can interfere with that. I'll give you an example in a moment. But when you are clear and when you are calm and you see something that you don't like and it's not aligned with your worth or your values, it is perfectly okay to say, you know what, I wish you well, I love you, I'm just not going to have that in my life. There are certain things will just drift away. They just won't matter to you anymore. Some things you'll have a clear no on. Now, when I talked about the collective conscious, what I want you to think about in there is things like whenever anyone is saying something like, well, of course you would feel that way. Of course that's wrong. Of course that's bad. So one of the good examples are affairs, right? When people have an affair, everybody calls it betrayal, and we all rally around the person who got betrayed, and we all come in and we protect that person as if they're the victim. Now, not saying that it's okay to have an affair. Not saying that that person shouldn't have done all kinds of other things and didn't have a million times and opportunities to speak up for themselves and to do better, the person who had the affair. Okay? However, most of the time, there's shared responsibility. Okay, we have 100% responsibility for ourselves. And most of the time, there's been a massive degradation of the relationship before you got to the affair. So when we make the person that got betrayed the victim and everybody rallies around and agrees collectively that an affair is bad and therefore you've been betrayed and then you are the victim and the other person is the pariah, what we have done is we've really gotten sucked in to something that needed us to go to the top of our mountain, take a look at the whole picture and see what happened here. What happened to cause us to get to this point? I just want to make sure I'm really clear. Some people have serial affairs, and sometimes there are circumstances where someone is truly more pathological and causes a lot of harm to people. And that can be a woman or a man. However, more often than not, it's just that the relationship went awry. And that person didn't have enough skills or awareness or connection to themselves to be able to really speak up about what was going on in the situation before they made a really bad decision. Now, some people are not going to like what I'm saying here. I get it. If you were in a situation where it happened, would I want you to have a lot of compassion? Yep. Would I want people to rally around you and support you and love you and hold you and remind you that you are okay and that you are lovable and that this is not a reflection of your lovability? Absolutely. Would I be okay with sitting there and holding your pain? For sure. But would I throw the other person under the bus and make an assumption that that person was just a bad person? No. Would I eventually want to help you to see what your part was in it so that you would be able to maybe repair the relationship or not have it happen again in the future? Absolutely. So it's not an either or, it's an and that's what almost all of this is. That person's behavior could be bad, and we also could have something to learn in it. You can feel hurt and you can take responsibility for your part. You can be angry and want to do something better in your own life. But in this particular situation, the reason why I talked about that is because when we get into the collective shadow, it can get really difficult, because when we judge people based on what the collective has agreed is wrong and bad, the trickster ego can come in and convince us, no, this is actually different. When actually the truth is, if you're facing it in your life, it is up for you. But I want to also say that it's also okay for us to have a lot of feelings first. So, judgments. So the work in judgments is nuanced. There's a lot to explore. We're going to explore first finding something in another that we are judging, that we can start to come into a different relationship with the thing, the characteristic, the trait that we're seeing in the other person. Now, here's another interesting part, is that your judgments you think of as negative. But here's the really fascinating thing. Even your positive judgments about another person, as in your compliments, they're still your shadows. They're still more about you than they are about them. I know, that's crazy. I remember, I think it was Brene Brown. Geez, I'm referring to her a lot lately. I think she said that she had started to do work on social media. And one time something happened, maybe it was her TED Talk, she posted it, and she got so many people who were so mean about her weight and what she was saying and stuff. They were brutal, and it just took her down. And yet there were probably even more compliments. And what she learned was you have to learn how to take both the compliments and the insults lightly, because they really aren't about you. They're really about the other person. They're really about their own stuff. So I know a lot of people who compliment people a lot. Obviously, they see that in the other person, but they often have other motives. And so I just want to call out that when you're complimenting somebody, it's really great to see what your motive is. Is it a pure compliment? I just want to compliment you. Or is it a give to get? Is it something you're trying to do because you're trying to make sure you're safe in that relationship, or you don't want that person to be upset with you, or because you want that person to like you? It happens all the time. So we judge people to feel better about ourselves, and we compliment people to feel better about ourselves. Now, I am actually a big believer in complimenting. I actually think it's really good to compliment people and to tell people what you see in them. I think it's really beautiful. But you have to remember, it is really more about you than it is about them. And the cleaner that we can get our side of the street, the more pure our compliments will be. But again, when you see in another person something that you want to compliment, that is in you too. So if you see somebody and you think she looks beautiful today, I want you to stop for a moment, put your hand on your heart and say, I do look beautiful today. Or if you are listening to somebody speak and then you afterwards want to go up and say, you are so wise. You say such really wise things. Thank you so much. You really, really impacted me today. I want you to turn around, put your hand on your heart and say, honey, you are wise and you have made my life better today. The shadow includes the golden shadows, not just the dark shadows. Remember, if we take our flashlight and we move our flashlight over, what became dark looks like light. What became light can become dark. There's always something in everything that is a gem or gold. Even in the most negative things, whether we find our power by getting a little bit more bold arrogance in our life, or whether it's that we get a backbone by bringing a drop of disrespect, or whether it be that we are able to see who we want to be by looking at the darkness, so choosing the more noble path. Whatever it is, it's our path of reclaiming a relationship with all aspects of what it's like to be a human, all impulses, all instincts, all feelings, all of anything that is part of the human experience, and not needing to reject it, rather to come into relationship with it and to be in choice on who we are without having to reject and deny and cut off from, but rather to say, hey, you could be here. You can be here because maybe at some point I want to tap into you a little bit. We're not going to reject you completely, but we also aren't going to let you drive our car. We're not going to let you take the lead in our life, right? We then get to choose and modulate and titrate and say, I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I don't have to be black and white. I don't have to be this or that. I get to be somewhere in the middle, choosing and dancing in what it's like to be a human. It's a beautiful thing. And when we bring the light to what is dark, when we bring the unconscious into our conscious awareness, it's the exact opposite of what people think. It is truly the most liberating thing we can do. And the more I accept myself, the more I can accept others. The more that I love all parts of myself and come into relationship, I don't have a yes, no, good, bad orientation around my relationships. I start to have more of a curious and open and compassionate relationship with other people, which then frees them up from having to be so self-judgmental. So you literally become the change in the world. You ripple out to everybody. Now we do some work on judgments. You will have the opportunity, because there will be many, many, many ways to explore judgments. First of all, it's to actually come into acceptance that what you judge in another is in you. And then the second thing is to really be able to loosen up our grip, to cut us and others a little bit more slack, to say, maybe we aren't so bad if sometimes we do those things. Maybe I have done that before in my life. Maybe I do it, but I just do it a little bit less than another person's doing it. Maybe I do it, but I don't do it when they do it. They do it in public, I do it in private. They do it outside in the world, I do it to myself. All right, let's go for it.